What if the most successful tech company on the planet, controlling half of the entire global mobile phone market, collapsed because of just one public mockery by its leadership? In the mid-2000s, a BlackBerry smartphone wasn't just a gadget. It was the ultimate symbol of status, power, and wealth. It was used by presidents, Hollywood stars, Wall Street executives, and the world's top billionaires. The brand held over 50% of the US market and generated billions of dollars in pure profit. But when Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in 2007 and showed the world the first iPhone, BlackBerry's co-founders publicly laughed at it. They claimed that a device without a physical keyboard was just a short-lived toy for kids that nobody actually wanted. Just a few years later, BlackBerry's market capitalization plummeted by 95%, the company lost billions of dollars, and its market share dropped to absolute zero. This is the story of how blinding arrogance, management blindness, and the fear of change destroyed the greatest mobile empire in history. To understand just how powerful BlackBerry was, we have to go back to the late 1990s. A Canadian company called Research in Motion, founded by two engineers, Mike Lazaridis and Jim Balsillie, sparked a true revolution. They created a device with a full physical QWERTY keyboard and the legendary encrypted messenger BBM. For the first time in history, businessmen, lawyers, and politicians were able to read and send work emails on the go anywhere, anytime. In a matter of years, BlackBerry became synonymous with productivity. Society even coined the term crackberry because people literally couldn't tear themselves away from their devices, constantly clicking away on the tiny keys. Even Barack Obama, during his presidential campaign, stated that the Secret Service would have to pry his BlackBerry out of his hands because he refused to give it up. By 2006, the company was at the absolute peak of its power, revenues were off the charts, investors were buying up stock, and the leadership genuinely believed they had built an eternal empire that could never be destroyed. And then came January 2007. Steve Jobs introduced the first iPhone, a massive glass screen, no physical buttons, touch input, and a full desktop-class mobile internet. The reaction of BlackBerry's bosses to this announcement went down in every business textbook. Co-CEO Jim Balsillie bluntly told reporters, "The iPhone poses absolutely no threat to our business. Our core customer base would never trade a real, tactile keyboard for a smudgy glass screen." Deep self-deception took hold inside the company. BlackBerry engineers tore down the first iPhone and concluded it was doomed to fail. They claimed the touchscreen drained too much power, the battery wouldn't last a day, and the phone itself consumed so much internet traffic that cellular carriers would simply refuse to sell it. But they catastrophically underestimated one simple truth. Customers no longer just wanted to send text emails. People wanted to listen to music, watch videos, play games, and use full-fledged apps. While Apple was actively building the App Store ecosystem and Google was launching Android, BlackBerry's leadership stubbornly continued churning out the exact same plastic phones with tiny screens and little buttons. When the bosses at BlackBerry finally realized the world had changed, panic set in at headquarters. They frantically tried to catch the departing train. In 2008, the company rushed out its desperate answer to the iPhone, the touchscreen BlackBerry storm. It was a complete, absolute, catastrophic failure. The screen was stiff and unresponsive, the operating system froze every 5 minutes, and apps constantly crashed. The return rate for the devices in stores hit a record 100%. Carriers had to pay out tens of millions of dollars in compensation to angry buyers, and BlackBerry's reputation as a reliable brand was entirely annihilated. Instead of admitting their mistakes and completely rewriting the software, the leadership got bogged down in endless internal conflicts. The two co-founders constantly argued with each other, making basic decisions took months, and top developers began fleeing en masse to Apple and Google. The climax of this parade of stupidity was their own messenger, BBM. Years before WhatsApp or Telegram existed, BBM was the most popular messaging app in the world. If BlackBerry had released BBM for iPhone and Android in time, they could have owned the biggest messenger on the planet. But the leadership refused to do it, deciding to keep BBM exclusive to their devices to force people to buy their outdated phones. As a result, WhatsApp emerged and stole their entire audience in just a couple of years. By 2013, BlackBerry's mobile business had turned into a scorched wasteland. The company's market share in smartphones plummeted from 50% to a humiliating 0.2%. The Canadian giant that stood at the dawn of the mobile revolution lost over $90 billion in market capitalization. Massive factories were shut down, tens of thousands of employees were left out on the street, and the co-founders resigned in disgrace. Ultimately, BlackBerry completely stopped producing its own phones, licensing the brand name to third-party Chinese companies, and transformed itself into a modest software firm focused on cybersecurity. And all of this happened just because the leadership of a great empire thought they were smarter than the market, mocked innovation, and outright refused to change along with the rest of the world. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below on which corporate disaster we should cover next. Thank you for watching, and this was the Rise Lab. See you in the next story.